Have you ever felt different after having an orgasm? A sudden sense of clarity, a flood of shame, guilt, or embarrassment, a feeling of happiness, or even euphoria, or maybe inspiration. You might have experienced what's colloquially referred to as post-nut clarity. So if you'd like to know what exactly it is, why it happens, and what you should do about it, stick around. My name is Helena Nista and I make videos that help you have the best sex of your life. And today we're discussing the experience of post-nut clarity. So, as the name suggests, the term post-nut clarity refers to the sense of clarity, clear-mindedness, or this sort of sobering up, the sense of sobering up after orgasming or busting a nut. It's almost like the sense of coming back to your senses after the experience of being aroused and orgasming. And while it's fairly common, it doesn't happen to everybody. Many men experience a sense of relaxation or kind of distress after climaxing, after having an orgasm and ejaculating. So rather than feeling clear-minded and ready for action or ready to make some kind of big decisions or resolving some big problems, they're more so ready to relax or even go to sleep. Post-nut clarity can take many different forms, and for some people it might be this sense of shame or guilt or even disgust with the thing that had just turned them on. So while this particular porn or a particular activity or particular kind of stimulation or fantasy in your head just a moment ago was working to arouse you and was giving you all these sensations of sexual energy and sexual pleasure, leading you up to an orgasm, after you've come, your perception of all these different things in your head can actually turn from arousal to a bit of a sense of shame and maybe even disappointment with yourself, where you might find yourself thinking, oh my God, have I just really done that? Or have I really said that? Or have I really just slept with this person even? So yes, this can even manifest as a sense of regret about the person who you had just hooked up with. For other people, it might feel more like a sense of inspiration, a big aha moment, a big realization, a solution to a problem that they had been struggling with or trying to figure out a solution to before. So this can be this kind of light bulb moment coming after a climax, or more so an artistic inspiration that will prompt them to go and paint or sculpt or write right after having an orgasm. Some people experience this sense of deep joy and happiness and contentment, or even just this euphoric bliss, with their life situation, with their partner, with their sexual situation, that is brought on by this post-nut clarity moment. Or alternatively, a sense of sadness or grief or anxiety or even depression, which is more commonly referred to as post-coital dysphoria, and that happens to a percentage of people as well. And to understand why it actually happens to us, we need to kind of take a few steps back to the moment of getting horny or feeling desirous when it comes to having sex or masturbating or being desirous of a particular person. Basically, the moment you start getting horny and aroused, your brain changes. That desire, that horniness is affecting your brain and you're no longer thinking straight. And this is in big part our clue to actually understanding post-nut clarity. If our brain switches to a kind of a different mode of operating when we are horny, then after the orgasm happens and the horniness dissipates, the brain goes back to the normal mode. So once you sort of go back from that horny cloud of sexy, erotic, orgasmic energy, you basically go back to being your normal self, clear-minded, sober thinking, self. Sexual arousal does cause significant changes in the brain. It causes a release of different substances that affect the functioning of the brain, like dopamine and oxytocin and other neurotransmitters that will cause us to feel almost intoxicated on these different substances. And the moment of orgasm can quite suddenly shake us out of that state because all these different substances begin to dissipate pretty quickly after you've ejaculated. And so this can feel almost a bit disjointed, that change of mind state from before the orgasm to after the orgasm. We also know from research on the brain that the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain responsible for rational thinking and decision making, that part of the brain doesn't get a lot of blood during arousal. So it seems like that the prefrontal cortex sort of goes a little bit offline while we are being sexually aroused and stimulated. That blood flow will return to your prefrontal cortex right after the orgasm, so it might kind of feel like you're suddenly full of these new ideas or clarity of thinking about different topics. It's also quite possible that another thing that plays part or can play part in post-nut clarity is sexual repression. So if you are a person that maybe grew up in a religious household or religious culture or society, you might have received a lot of toxic ideas or negative beliefs about sexuality, being sexual, experiencing pleasure and orgasms. And so after orgasming, you might just experience this flood of guilt and shame about your sexual behavior. So that socially imposed stigma or shame about sex or masturbation can add to the sense of disjointed or uncomfortable sense of shame, guilt, or even depression after having a sexual experience that ended in an orgasm. And you might be noticing throughout this video that I am not only referring to men when it comes to talking about the post-nut clarity. And yes, busting a nut, the expression, relates to male ejaculation and male orgasm. So post-nut clarity suggests that we're just talking about an experience that happens to men. But we know for a fact that a lot of women experience the same thing. So it's not just a male experience, women can also have a post-nut clarity. So if that happens to you and you're a woman, it is perfectly normal and fairly common among ladies as well. So what should you do if you are experiencing a post-nut clarity moment? Well, it's completely up to you. If it is a sense of joyful bliss and happiness and contentment, then by all means enjoy it, take your time with it, sit with your feelings and in your experience for as long as you can. If you are inclined in any way that is artistic or creative, you might be actually consciously using the post-nut clarity moment to create, to use it as inspiration in your work and in your creation. However, what to do if your post-nut clarity moment brings with it sense of sadness, grief, anxiety, fear, aggression, or even depression? Obviously, these kind of feelings are a lot more difficult to deal with, and so a lot of people can find themselves a bit confused and even stuck with them. So a very natural reaction might be to just try to repress them, push them away, bottle them up, just hide them away and not look at them and deny them existence. But that is not typically a good solution. When it comes to difficult feelings, the best thing to do is to actually give them a bit of time, give them a bit of your time, sit with them and allow yourself to actually feel them so that you can ask some questions. Like, are they true? Where are they coming from? Do they come from my past, where I was learning all these negative associations with being a sexual human being? What do these feelings actually mean? Are they valid? And are they true for you? Or is it just something that was imposed on you and you no longer choose to believe that to be true? If you had learned before that you're supposed to feel ashamed about masturbation, then is that still true for you now? And if that shame comes up for you, can you actually see it as just leftovers from that upbringing where self-touch was frowned upon and seen as something negative? Or maybe there's something actual physical that you need in terms of caring for yourself. So this can be a good opportunity for a bit of a self-care moment, or for asking your partner to care for you after your orgasm in your moment of maybe uncomfortable post-nut clarity or post-coital dysphoria. So you might want to ask them to sit with you and hold you or listen to you while you share about your experiences. Or maybe you might just want to be all by yourself, or have a nap, or have something to eat, or anything else that you feel like you need and want in that moment. And regardless of how exactly your body and your system responds and reacts after you've orgasmed, remember that it's all perfectly normal, natural, and very common. It happens to a lot of people. So simply knowing that there's nothing wrong with you and that you're having a perfectly normal and common experience in that moment, that in itself can be helpful to move on from any kind of low or negative feelings. And if that post-nut clarity by any chance makes you want to go again sooner, then make sure to watch this video next.